look tired, Coach. You okay?
I'm all right.
All right.
Game
Good.
Wednesday, 6 o'clock Central Time, ESPN Network, SEC Network. Game Saturday will be on ESPN2. TCU as part of the Big 12 SEC Championship. That, Coach, starts off with a quick statement.
Hopefully we'll have good defensive rebounding stations today in practice and tomorrow before we leave, and go get ready to play Mississippi State.
Eric, you mentioned rebounding. It's no surprise with your all size. You knew rebounding would be a challenge, but you guys did pretty well for most of the year. And then, you know, LSU obviously dominated Kentucky, even Ole Miss. Is that just the teams you're playing, their athleticism, their size? And you look at Mississippi State, they're leading the SEC in margin, and I think they're rebounding 40% of their offensive.
Yep.
I mean, how big a challenge is that? And is it realistic that you can close that rebounding margin gap against a team like this?
Yeah, I think, you know, when you look at Kentucky, first of all, like, I think they're one of the, you know, 5 most talented teams in the country. And, you know, their length causes a lot of problems. LSU's length and athleticism cause problems inside. But we could have won the game at LSU. And certainly could have won the game at Western Kentucky. And so, you know, the one game that you know, we didn't play good offensively, obviously. You got to credit Kentucky's defense, but also we were within striking distance, you know. 8 minutes were up, and we've talked about changing the starting lineup and trying to go bigger. Having said that, when you talk to other teams when they're done playing us, we create a lot of problems for other people. Like, you know, Kentucky changed their starting lineup. We've seen that before. So, you know, as much as we know what our deficiency is, I also think that because of that deficiency, we're causing some mismatches as well. And we don't want to lose that aspect of who we are, where we're making other teams adjust to us. We see it during the course of games when teams go smaller. But certainly in this particular game, rebounding's, you know, you can't win games when you lose by 20-some on the glass, you know, and obviously we were hopeful for good reason that Connor was going to be eligible, and that wasn't the case, and so that, you know, kind of changed who we were. And, yeah, we're going to have to rebound, Bob.
I mean, realistically, how do you do that against these guys? They got 3 of the top, I think, 10 rebounders in the league, and Reggie Perry's like a double-double average. And how were you guys able to rebound? And, you know, you hung in there, you know, the first 12 games, whatever. What was the key to that? And is it realistic to get back to that, or is that just too hard to do against these SEC teams?
No, I mean, I remember sitting at the SEC league meetings, and I sat next to Georgia's head coach, Tom Crean, and he and I have known each other for a long time, and he made the comment. I asked him, like, what's the difference between the SEC, in his opinion, and the Big Ten and other places that he's coached, like Marquette, and he said, you're going to be amazed at how active rebounders are in this league. I was already in the league, so I knew, but you know, his statement is rings true. But you know, it's cost us 2 games for sure. I mean, we lost at LSU because we didn't rebound enough. We didn't close the gap just a little bit. You know, when you lose by 29 on the glass, if you lose that game by 20 on the board, you still win the game. And so, like I said, we are creating mismatches. We're creating extra possessions by winning the turnover battle, meaning we get a little more steals. We take care of the basketball. So I don't think that we've lost what we had rebounding wise earlier. I just think sometimes it's matchups, Bob. I really do. And the effort, like we go back and watch film, they're playing hard. We have a deficiency as far as size. But we do need our guards. And we're going to talk about it again today relentlessly, about our guards have to rebound. Because look at Kentucky's guards that rebounded. Quigley, 4 offensive rebounds, 10 total rebounds. Hagan, 6 rebounds. Maxey, I think, had 6 rebounds. We got to rebound at the guard spot. And we just can't rely on just one guy because we don't have that one guy that's a dominant rebounder. So we can't have 3 guards on the other team basically out-rebound our whole team. And that's what happened against Kentucky. You look at the number of defensive rebounds that Arkansas had, and you look at Quigley, Maxey, and Hagan's rebounds, it wasn't just Richards and those type guys. I mean, Kentucky guards annihilated us on the glass.
Coach, you've talked in the past about the magic number of threes that you guys need to hit. It's about 10, 11, 12 a game, especially on the road. How important is that you get some perimeter shooting from guys like Desi and Jalen on the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Scotty, if you look at our team and we're not gonna win the rebounding battle, and you're gonna play small, you've got to make threes. Otherwise, we might as well play 3 bigs at a time. And we've talked about it. Like Adrio right now, believe it or not, is our highest percentage 3-point shooter. And so you sit and ask yourself, if Adrio took 53s, what would his percentage be? I have no idea. But at the beginning of the year, when I looked at our stats from last year, if you would have told me that Adrio would be leading us in 3-point percentage, I would be shocked. But he is. Maybe I need to tell him to take more threes.
Just specifically what a Perry and Weatherspoon and the problems they present.
Yeah, I think when you look at Mississippi State's record, throw it out because, number 0, Witherspoon wasn't there for a lot of the season, and he can score the ball. He has not been shooting the 3 well, but we know historically in his career he's been able to make threes. Really good dribble driver. And then obviously Perry, phenomenal talent, good inside, good outside. 24, Adu's going to, he causes us problems inside. And even their small forward 12, we're worried about him on the glass as well.
Eric, I guess they won their last 2 games by
Hello. It's our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Hope everyone had a very, very good Martin Luther King Day yesterday. I know I did. Like I said, I really enjoyed the day off as well as Friday. We were out taking care of some things. We have some things in the works. Our interview with Coach Sam Pittman will be out in the coming days. As the best. My producer does a great job, and he's going to make sure that it's what you guys need to hear in our sit down that we have with Sam. But real quick, next up, we're going to be having David Waters of Gators Breakdown. Arkansas just came up with what I think is the biggest pickup for Sam Pittman to date. A lot of questions, a lot of media not really knowing much about this guy, but Felipe Franks has decided to grad transfer to the University of Arkansas. And real quick, before we get David on here, I want to ask my buddy Demetrius, how big is that, Demetrius, going forward, especially in year 1 for Coach Sam Pittman?
I think it's huge. I think he gets a guy that already has that SEC mindset already built. I think it's somebody that he has a lot of film on. I don't know if he's expecting Felipe to come in here and be the starter, but I think from a leadership standpoint, he has a proven leader and a guy that he thinks can mentally get this team where they need to be the first year as Sam Pittman being the head coach.
Well, let's get this thing going. We'll let you hear more of Coach Eric Musselman's press availability that we had with Coach. And then following that, David Waters of Gators Breakdown. Time to talk about the new haul, Felipe Franks. I'm thinking of Felipe Lopez, a guy that played basketball a long time ago, but it's Felipe. We're going to talk about him. He's the new haul. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it.
The next game. I'm a sore loser. I'm not, we haven't lost many games at home. At my prior stop, we hadn't lost a game. At home here, we had what I would consider the best crowd that I've ever been in an arena, and we were not able to win that game. And but we got to figure out a way to regroup and get ready, because that game's gone. It's over with, and we got 2 big games this week. But yeah, we're concerned. I'm concerned with their margin of victory and how confident they are coming into the game, for sure.
Coach, that was kind of my question. Like, what is the protocol? Because you talked about the environment and so much hype going into the Kentucky game. I mean, is this a group that you have to say something to, or is it a mature enough group where they know, hey, it's time to take our show on the road? What is the protocol for moving past Kentucky?
Did we have any players in here before me?
No.
Okay. I don't know how they answered it. No, I think, like, with your team, you've constantly...
Welcome back to our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, as we come to you each and every day here on KDSJ 479. And Arkansas just received really good news in the inaugural year for Sam Pittman as the new head hog in Fayetteville, as the new grad transfer, Felipe Franks, formerly of Florida University, decided to be a Razorback. So, I know a lot of people want to know more about Felipe, so we thought we'd head back down to the swamp and get our good buddy that knows quite a bit from Gators Breakdown, David Waters. David, welcome back to OTH, my man.
Thank you for having me again, Pat.
Talk about this pickup for Arkansas. You've had the privilege, David, for the better part of 4.5 years to study Felipe in a lot of different ways, both on the field, off the field. What's Arkansas getting in this young man, starting today as he should be in class as we speak?
First of all, Pat, I'll start off the field. He's going to be dedicated. Felipe Franks, he works hard. We're not talking about game day here, but he's going to get a rapport with his wide receivers. They're going to work behind the scenes a whole lot. You're going to get a guy that really cares. He wants to play his hardest. At times, especially 2 years ago now, Dan Mullen's first year, kind of go back to the end of the 2018 season, toward the end of that season, and Felipe Franks had heard it from Gator fans for years. Then everybody remembers him just in the crowd after scoring against South Carolina, and he played better at that point. He played better with a chip on his shoulder. Right. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about Felipe Franks. Hey, what are you doing going to Arkansas that haven't been successful? Not necessarily putting it together, but it's a new staff. It's a chance for him to start over. It's a chance for that staff to start over. Big arm quarterback. He's going to throw it down the field, especially in the Kendall Browse offense. I really do expect Browse to get Felipe Franks throwing the ball down the field a bit. He's got the big arm. He's got a chance to do it. As Kendall Browse offense, make some quick decisions as well, but he really likes to push the ball down the field. And I tell you, with Frank's arms and if Browse can get it kind of figured out there, I think as far as the passing game goes, I think that's what you can expect from Felipe Franks. But to me, to use him at his best, and this is what Dan Mullen started doing toward the end of that 2018 season, you're going to have to let Felipe use his legs a bit too, and Kendall Browse has that part of his offense as well. So you don't necessarily have to design a whole offense around him running, but you got to let him do it a little bit, let him loosen up that defense there. So as I said, off the field, you're going to get a dedicated guy. He really cares. He plays emotional, and when he plays emotional, that's when he plays his best there. So putting the whole package together, off field, on the field, as going into Sam Pittman's first season, I think this is a good starting point at the quarterback position for Arkansas. He's got experience in the SEC. He knows what to expect, and nothing will surprise him at this point. He was redshirted, played his first year at Florida, got thrown in too early under Jim McElwain. Dan Mullen was able to fix him a little bit. And I think for a total package, Arkansas is getting a pretty good player in Franks.
When you look at him with what Arkansas will be bringing back on the offensive side of the football, that being Traylon Burks, Trey Knox, Mike Woods, Raheem Boyd, true freshman, redshirt tight end, Hudson Henry. Talk about what Arkansas could be offensively if, and we all know the big question at Arkansas is going to be the offensive line. If they can get a little bit more physical on that line, What could this offense be like with Felipe and all those weapons that they have here in Fayetteville, in your opinion?
Yeah, the good thing was, of course, you guys recruited receiver pretty well because of the offense that was run before. So the receivers are going to be there, and that really benefited Franks as well. And Florida saying goodbye to Tyree Cleveland and Josh Hammond, Freddie Swain, Van Jefferson. He had a bevy of wide receivers in Florida that really helped him elevate his game a bit. But as I said, I think you mentioned maybe trying to help the offensive line be a little bit more physical. Well, Franks, I think, can help in that regard as well. He's a big body quarterback. He can take some hits if he needs to. Yeah, he was injured. He tore his knee up versus Kentucky this past year, but for the most part, it's been a pretty healthy player. So you're getting a pretty healthy player in that regard as well. I know he's coming off that injury, and it was a serious injury, but for his career, he's been pretty healthy there. So I think you'll get a chance to get him physical in the run game and count on those receivers that you guys recruited there the last couple of years. You go pretty deep there. So I think there's some good pieces there for Felipe Franks. I don't necessarily think the offense will have to necessarily be all on his arm. Get some help from the receivers. And as I said, I really think it's really important, I think. You got to let him get physical. You got to let him take some hits because to me, that's when he does play his best.
What do you think the season? How much more different would the outcome of this Florida Gators season been had Felipe had the opportunity to play the duration of the year? I mean, this was a guy coming off a 10-3 year, had very, very good numbers that were comparable. Not saying he would have had the same outcome this year as Joe Burrow, but when you go back to that 2018 season, those guys had numbers very, very similar. Talk about just what could it have been had Felipe been out for at least the 12 regular season games, David.
Yeah, he had very similar numbers to Burrow in 2018, and as far as numbers go, was putting up pretty good numbers before he got injured too. But for whatever reason, the Florida offense was kind of in a funk. You go back to that first game of the season against Miami, and Franks those 2 interceptions in late in that game in the fourth quarter, and it was. He threw those 2 interceptions. Everybody saw it. Everybody was watching that game. It was on national TV, but still threw for a lot of yards. And He was going against, and in the game against Kentucky, he was putting up stats too. But Florida could just never seem to put the ball in the end zone. He gets hurt in that game, and for whatever reason, the offense took over once Kyle Trask went in. One thing I'll really point to that though is I think what really happened is when Felipe Franks was in there, I think Dan Mullen was still trying to figure out what he wanted to do on offense this year, and they were running the ball a whole lot more with the running backs when Franks was in there. Starting right after the Auburn game, so close to midway in the season, Dan Mullen went ahead and said, you know what, the run game's not working. Let's just go throw the ball 40 times a game, and that's what was happening. So maybe if we could go back when Felipe Franks was quarterback, if you go back and go against the Miami game and the Kentucky game, maybe if Dan Mullen starts the season wanting to throw the ball 40, 45 times a game, then maybe you take the ball, because Florida couldn't get anything going on first down in the run game, couldn't get anything going on second down or third down. The run game was not working, and it put Florida behind the chains. That's what Felipe Franks dealt with a whole lot. So I do think if Mullen would have came out of the season and thrown the ball 40, 45 times a game, then maybe we wouldn't have seen the struggles from the offense as a whole when Franks was in there.
Well, when you look at these hires throughout the SEC with Kiffin to Ole Miss, Drinkwitz goes over to Missouri, Leach to Mississippi State, and Pittman here at Arkansas. Out of those 4, how would you rate those 1 through 4 as to least to most impressive in your opinion at this moment, David?
I'd say as far as whole staffs go, I think you got to look at what Ole Miss is doing. They're pretty good from what they've been able to do is putting a whole staff together. I know the Sam Pittman hire was questionable when you go around the SEC, but the staff he's assembled, I think, has kind of shot him and elevated him up there. I know Kendall Browse was here at FSU, and we remember the difficulties the Florida State offense had under Willie Taggart in his first year there. But the offense did get better under Kendall Browse in the second season here at FSU. So, I think Kendall Browse is a really good offensive coordinator. Now he's got a big arm quarterback to work with Franks. So something definitely to look at there. Leach in Mississippi State, I tell you, that one's really interesting. I don't know where I don't know where it's going to go. It can be really successful, or it can really ball in its face. The offense, you don't see many offenses like this in the SEC too
Right.
much, where they're going to just come out and throw the ball 60 times a game, probably at least. You don't see it a whole lot, and so we saw what this LSU offense was able to do this past year. But they still had a strong run game to go back on with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But what Joe Burrow was able to do was really astonishing there. But it's not going to be the air raid type that you see from Mike Leach. So that offense, it may take some time because I don't know if the pieces are quite there yet. The hires, it's definitely going to be exciting when we get together in Atlanta, Pat.
All right, my man. Look forward to it, and I also look forward to continuing more conversation. As spring football is just around the corner. But for now, thanks for taking time out on the hill, David.
Thanks, Pat.
That's David Waters of the Gators Breakdown. We're going to take a real quick break, but when we come back, we'll have Kevin McPherson of Hogville.net. It's time to talk a little Arkansas basketball, and they had some special guys in here. How are they feeling when they left Bud on Saturday? It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Let's get it. Let's play Muslim right now. We're going to be back.
Because Mississippi State's playing with a great deal of confidence. They're extremely well coached. They're tough. Their strength is our weakness. It's a road game. And, quite honestly, we got to get over ourselves, me included, meaning we had an incredible environment, and we got to get ready for the next game. I'm a sore loser. I'm not, we haven't lost many games at home. At my prior stop, we hadn't lost a game. At home here, we had what I would consider the best crowd that I've ever been in an arena, and we were not able to win that game. And but we got to figure out a way to regroup and get ready, because that game's gone. It's over with, and we got 2 big games this week. But yeah, we're concerned. I'm concerned with their margin of victory and how confident they are coming into the game, for sure.
Coach, that was kind of my question. What is the protocol? Because you talked about the environment and so much hype going into the Kentucky game. I mean, is this the...
Welcome back here to our Tuesday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, as we come to you here on KDSJ 479. And real quick, before we get on to our next guest, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, as it would not be possible without you all. With that being said, Lindsay and Associates, Locomotion, Corey Beck's Custom Painting, and KDK's Chicken. But now on to our featured guest here on the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. Arkansas hosted the Kentucky Wildcats in what I thought was one of the more festive environments that I've had the privilege of being able to cover here in Fayetteville. But I want to talk to a guy that knows a lot about that. And then there were some recruits that came in town. So we're going to bring on Kevin McPherson of Hogville.net. Kev, welcome back to OTH, my man.
Hey, Pat. Good to be with you, my friend.
Great environment on Saturday. When I left, Kevin, my ears were still, a little bit ringing, so to speak. Talk about that environment and, what can Arkansas take from that game? I mean, they didn't play up to their best, but still had a chance to win. What are some of your takes heading into this big ball game as they travel to Starkville to take on Mississippi State?
Well, we know that Arkansas, first and foremost, we know this team struggles with lack of size. They struggle on the glass. That was shown against LSU by a large amount. Not quite to that extent against Kentucky, but they were minus 18 on the boards. And really, Kentucky not only was good on the glass, they were so good defensively. It limited Arkansas to 33% shooting. We've seen Arkansas with a combination of Mason Jones, Isaiah Joe, or Jimmy Witt. One of those guys can have an off night. Sometimes they can survive with 2 of them having an off night. But you can't have all 3 of them not playing well offensively. Somebody's got to stand up and deliver. And Kentucky did a great job of really putting those, keeping those guys in check. I thought offensively, Kentucky does such a great job of putting pressure on you because they don't walk the ball up. They don't walk it up where they get a defensive rebound or you score. They're constantly putting pressure, trying to get up tempo. If they don't have a first or secondary transition opportunity, they get in their offense. And one thing they did scouting Arkansas likes to close hard on shooters with hands and eyes, and they'll leave their feet if they think a shot attempt's coming. Kentucky moved the ball first with passing, which always puts a defensive advantage. Arkansas closed hard. Kentucky did a lot of ball faking and then driving in. And once they got in the paint and around the basket, that's easy pickings because Arkansas does not have a true rim defender and they don't have size. So I thought Kentucky's game plan was executed well. Having said all that, Arkansas fought back like we've seen them do, Pat. Take a lead after trailing by double figures in the second half. We've seen them win at Indiana that way, at Ole Miss that way. And then Kentucky turned that back with a 15-0 run after Calipari was tossed from that game for picking up 2 technical fouls. Great atmosphere, like you said, but at the end, Kentucky was the better team.
A lot of big-time recruits made their way to Fayetteville. A couple that were committed to Arkansas, a couple that still have high interest in the Razorbacks. Talk about what those kids, experienced from your conversations that they, really thought about leaving Bud Walton on Saturday.
Well, a couple of things. One of them, and I don't know if you saw it yet, Jackson Robinson, the 6'5" wing out of Ada, Oklahoma, that was his 4th visit since August, Arkansas, and today he committed to Texas A&M. I think that surprised some people. But he has had nothing but good things to say. But let's focus on the guys that are still on the table. You've got Devontae Davis that signed in that 2020 class, a top 100 player. Jalen Williams out of Fort Smith Northside, the 6'10" forward center. Both of those guys raved about the experience. Duncan Powell, the 2021 combo forward out of DeSoto, 6'7". He was actually Musselman's first high school commitment back in the fall. And he basically said, man, I've never been in an arena this loud. And he said, it made me think about when I'm going to be up there and playing these kind of atmospheres. So, you had the 2 young guys, Khalil Ware, the 2022 big man, 6'10" at North Little Rock, and Bryson Warren, the freshman at North Little Rock, 6'1" combo guard. Both of those guys picked up Arkansas offers on Friday. They turned around and attended that Kentucky-Arkansas game on Saturday, and they were blown away. They both had positive things to say. And you can go down the list. There's several other guys. 2022 Javion King out of Little Rock Mills, 6'4" wing. He had a good time, spoke highly of the Hogs, fighting back to get back in that game. He's here. He'll be actually playing his first game of the season here later this month as he transferred from Sylvan Hills last year. But you had other guys. Talon Peter out of Russellville, a preferred walk-on candidate, had a good time. He's a senior. But Arkansas had 9 visitors altogether for that game.
Now, heading on, as Musselman met with us yesterday in preview of this Mississippi State ball game on the road, what's going to be some of the keys that Arkansas has to accomplish? I mean, we know going in, this is a long Mississippi State basketball team, and rebounding is going to be of the premium for Arkansas. Maybe not, not many days will they win it, but, what are some keys that you see from your standpoint about tomorrow night's game, Kevin?
Well, it is. It's the size. I mean, we knew when Arkansas got into SEC play and we started to see more and more of it that this was going to be an issue. But the good news is that Arkansas has been in every game. Nobody's blown them out. Mississippi State just basically roughed up 2 teams. They'd started 0-3 in league play, by the way. Last week the Bulldogs got well quick and blew out 2 opponents. Georgia was one of those, and a Georgia team that's improved. But Mississippi State ended up winning by a combined nearly 30 points per game when you look at those 2 wins. So they're on a roll right now, and it's their 3rd home game in a row. We know Reggie Perry, a one-time Arkansas commit. He's the only player in the SEC averaging a double-double on the season, over 16 points and over 10 rebounds. Now, he's not quite the above-the-rim kind of player that guys like Nick Richards and E.J. Montgomery were for Kentucky and some of LSU's players, but he still is an outstanding player. He's long, he's strong, he's 6'10" and 250. And then Mississippi State's got length on the perimeter. They've got other big guys. This is another matchup that I see Arkansas potentially getting destroyed on the glass again and just fighting to stay in the game.
Well, Kevin, man, love having you on, man. Keep up the good work, and I'm pretty sure we're going to catch up here in a couple of days pretty quick. But, my man, thanks for taking time out here on the Hill.
Looking forward to it, Pat. Thank you.
All right. That was Kevin McPherson. We're going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to wrap this thing up. If you have any questions, how do you feel about Felipe Franks coming to Arkansas and possibly being your starting quarterback in year one with Sam Pittman? All that's coming up in our final segment. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. Back in a moment. Roll. Now we just gonna take that Felipe picture, and then we're gonna play the rest of Must. Welcome back to our Tuesday edition here of OTH on KDSJ 479. And yes, for those that have just tuned in, it is official. Felipe Franks is going to be transferring and will be attending classes and be, on your football team here in the 2020 season of the Arkansas Razorbacks. And for those that have questions, I want to bring in real quick my producer as we're about to conclude this segment. Demetrius, what's been the stuff? What have you heard from out and about town? From the news since Felipe decided to be a Razorback. What's the temperature that you're garnering from some of your social media friends?
I think everybody sees it as an addition. Whether he plays or not. Like I said earlier, I think he brings a aspect of leadership to the team, experience, and I think there's going to be moments where he does things special for the University of Arkansas because I don't think there's a true starter. I think there's guys that physically can do what we need, but we don't know if they mentally can do with the things or do the things that Sam Pittman wants out of a Razorback offense.
Derek Conaway, all he says is, I know he's one of our avid viewers and listeners. He says WPS. So we know where he's at in the situation. Donnie Butts also said and I think he's in regards to the basketball team, if they'd have made free throws on Saturday, absolutely. Missed 10 free throws, two guys, and that being Adrio and Mason, uncharacteristically missed 9 of those free throws for that ball club. But, this team has a way of responding, and I think they'll respond in a big way. Yes, we had on Kevin McPherson. I think it's going to be a big-time battle in Starkville. But I do think that this team will respond for Coach Musselman. It's just too good a staff, and they're just too locked in. I think maturity with this basketball team is really, really big, and you can kind of see that they stick together. Even in that game Saturday, they didn't do all the things that they're normally capable of doing, but still had a chance to win. And when you break those 3 losses down, they're just a couple of plays from being an undefeated and nationally ranked team. So, I do think they'll definitely respond. Derek Conaway, Franks had a lot of time in the pocket at Florida. I don't know if he's going to get the same talent level around. I think he will. I think Sam Pittman's known to bring in great offensive linemen. I think he will do the same here at Arkansas in particular. I think he's going to bring in some guys in that freshman class in particular that'll have a chance to get on the field. Sometimes there's no age limit, and you've heard, and for people that's heard me here on this show time and time again, there's no age limit. I've said that time, over and over in the SEC. If you're physically, mentally, and able to adapt and play in the SEC, you have to step on the field. And I think with Sam Pittman, I think you're going to see a lot of that. Goes back to the time with Dan Skipper and Denver Kirkland. He didn't, hesitate on throwing those guys out in the fire because they were physically ready to play in the SEC. And I think if Arkansas in particular can get more impact on the offensive line out of this freshman class that'll be here in Fayetteville in 2020, then there could be some really special things going forward. But I do think Sam Pittman and Brad Davis will be able to attract and recruit some of the nation's elite offensive lines, and Arkansas will be back to what they've been known to be, real physical up front. That's a great question, Derek. A real good question. But that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We'll be back with much, much more tomorrow as Arkansas will be taking on the Mississippi State Bulldogs in Starkville, Mississippi tomorrow night. And we'll talk more about that. Plus, we'll talk more about recruiting. Sam Pittman, Eric Musselman. There's a lot going on the Hill. Arkansas's women will be taking on this Thursday in Bud Walton Arena on Nolan Richardson Court the Georgia Lady Bulldogs. We'll have all that coming up as tomorrow we'll have availability with Coach Neighbors as well. There's a lot going on in the land of the Razorbacks. But until then, for our sponsors, Lindsay and Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also too in Rogers. Locomotion, you can find them located just below Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting. And lastly, KDK's Chicken. For myself, for my producer, Demetrius Johnson, and to you all, thanks, guys. We love all the questions, all the viewership. Keep it up. I mean, this is our show just as much as this, or my show, our show. It's all, whatever. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and you know what the last word's got to be. Let's get it.